Welcome in. Try that again. Welcome in. Brand new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Corrales Punta Cana Championship. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there. Joe Idoni. Joe, have you had your golf fill yet?
Not quite. Well, I'm always down for a Wednesday night action in the Jock Market. So this week, obviously, with the match play, we've got the alternate event in Corrales. I'm not going to lie, surprisingly, like some nice names that we're going to like to talk about over the next 45 minutes and see where they close in IPO. We've already got a lot of bidding going on.
Yeah, there is. So there's kind of obviously a lot happening this week. You know, the match play is happening, and the way that the Jock Market works, it doesn't support the match play. So the good thing is we've got the Punta Cana stuff that's going to start tomorrow. So like if your bets are dead and your lineups are already dead and your top seeds have kind of lost their first match and you're a little bit worried, you're going to get a second chance here. But real quick, Joe, I mean, the guys that played in the match play are obviously guys that we're going to be investing in the Jock Market, like in the very near foreseeable future. So were there any kind of big surprises in just the first day, or things that you're kind of keeping an eye on, keeping your finger on the pulse of?
There were a couple ones that came right down to the wire. Obviously, we see it every year. Like, it's so fun to try and sort of pencil out the brackets, but weird stuff happens, man. Like the couple of them down to the wire. It was nice to see. You know what I noticed, Rick, actually? I used to make a couple of matchup plays, the simulator that you have on the website. And there were a couple of underdogs that when I ran like a 100-round simulation, I'm sure you know the matchups that I'm talking about but one guy who was an underdog in the matchup was like projected to all of a sudden win 55% of the time. So there were a couple fun ones like that and some lesser names, always chaotic, but you've got to kind of learn to stay patient in an event that's 5 days and this many rounds. And typically the guys like John Rahm, we expect to sort of bounce back.
Yeah. How many strokes will Ricky Fowler win the Masters by?
Is that the narrative going into tonight? Right. Yeah. Yeah, Ricky had to do it. It was awesome to see him win. We know that he's got a lot on the line this week, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to make it out of that powerhouse group with world number one.
Yeah, so there were, and I do want to remind people, we're going to talk about Punta Cana plenty, but I do want to remind people, you know, it is kind of a weird situation, and don't just look at the results. And like Nick Taylor made 9 birdies today and lost to Patrick Cantlay, and then there was another match later that had the Homa match. The Homa match had Homa wins 3-2. That match had 4 total birdies in it, right?
Jeez,
so it's like. Yeah. You know, you can get a little lucky, you can get a little unlucky. Don't necessarily press the panic button immediately.
It's a hard one to digest in terms of stats, really. Even in when you mention birdies, like a lot of that is dependent upon the other player. It's not so much them versus the course. It's totally that player versus their opponent. And even in the Homa match, there could have been situations where his opponent was out of position and he's playing to a safe spot 30 feet away from the hole. You know what I mean? So especially trying to make pars down the stretch. So it's a weird one statistics wise to try to analyze some of the strokes gain numbers and all that kind of stuff is almost impossible. But also a fun one. Like, we both love it. It's a shame to see it potentially go away. I'd love to see it kind of be I've talked for years how I'd love to see the season end in this kind of format, but we don't know if we're going to get that either.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Fingers crossed that they can figure something out. To every man who did an interview afterwards, it was like, yeah, I love match play. We should play more match play. And it feels like we're going in the opposite direction. But anyway, we got Punta Cana to get into tonight. And for those who are just tuning in and trying to figure out what the heck's going on, we're playing stock market DFS. This is the Jock Market. So this is your opportunity right now during IPO to bid on shares of golfers. And for the next 40 minutes or so, that bidding is open. And then if you're one of the high bidders at around 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight, those shares are allocated to you. But you could also short golfers if you don't think that they're going to play very well, or you think they're going to do worse than expectation. And in a field like this, Joe, you know, we say it every single week, every single golfer's live. In a field like this, that list is deep. Like, we are running like 250 deep on the PGA Tour right now.
Absolutely. No, and especially given this field, like, we've got a couple names at the top, but all of these guys, like you mentioned, are playing to it seems like the middle range has kind of been wiped out, and maybe that's part of live stuff or not. But there's such a wide open nature to everyone else, particularly in this field. And we kind of saw it play out last year, actually, at this event. If you pull some of those numbers up, there you have it. So there was guys in pre-ranks all the way up in 100, 117, 89. So this is one event, unlike some of the ones that we've seen recently, where I think that you can embrace some of that craziness and just kind of go fishing and guys down at the bottom.
Yeah, so I'm showing this right now. This data is free. It's available. It's on my website, RickRunGood.com. You can download it. You can manipulate it. You can do anything you want with it. So this is last year's Corrales Punta Cana championship. So Chad Ramey last year sold an IPO at $5.15. He got the full $25 per share payout for winning. So that was $19.85 worth of profit. Now, to Joe's point, the next highest profit golfer was Ben Martin, who was ranked 100th in the pre-rank, went for $2.53 per share, paid out $18 a share. That's $15.47 of profit. Another 100 plus pre-ranked golfer, Martin Trainer, went from $2.73 to $11 a share. There were oh my gosh, look at all these golfers that doubled your money or returned triple digit ROIs from last year, just because the nature of this thing's kind of crazy. It's definitely a deeper field that not everyone is as familiar with. This is where our guys in the chat who love the penny stocks, like, this is penny stock season.
This is penny stock season without a doubt, but also, like, fair to mention, Johnny Vegas, #1 pre-rank, one of the higher IPOs at $8.56, still nearly doubled your money. Brent's right. It's penny stock season here. In this course, Rick, like, tell me, it's different than a lot of the other sort of courses that typically you would expect in this sort of region, where you're going to get, it's long. You're going to get a lot of long iron play. I was looking on your website earlier, and some of the driving distance numbers in terms of course average in correlation to success. There you have it. They're way up there. The approaches from 275 yards is like the #1 place you'll see approaches from that distance on tour, which is wild. The wind gets crazy, right?
Yeah, the wind gets crazy, 7,600 yards. And depending on the wind direction, it can play like all of that and then some. Like, yeah, so you'll see some pretty outrageous, like, correlated stats, how important driving distances and how important some of these longer shots are. It's just, it is kind of an outlier course in what you end up getting in terms of some of these results. So it's fun. We should be able to see a lot of action tonight. Let's play a little game. Let's play a game called Bullish or Bearish. And before I do that, I will remind people that if you haven't gotten involved, there is a link in the description. The promo code is POWER. That'll get you your $100 deposit bonus. You can get signed up for Jock Mark. You can also play their new props game, the prop pick'em, where they've got the 4 major sports right now, golf coming very soon, but you can get involved in both ends of those markets and those formats, which is a fun little combination. So Bullish or Bearish shows where we look at 4 individual golfers and we take a stand whether we are, that's right, bullish or bearish on them. Let's start with one of the guys who's going to be seemingly very popular tonight. He is the #1 pre-ranked golfer. His fair value for tonight is $12.58. His name is Wyndham Clark. Are you bullish or bearish on Wyndham Clark?
You know what? It's all going to depend on where he finishes price point wise, but at a fair value of $12.58, I love Wyndham Clark this week. There's no way I can get there. Like, $12.58 is going to ask him to finish 7th or better in a field that is wide open, which is full of jam-packed, hungry, young talent. Like, that's just too much to ask, right? I got to say bearish.
That's the problem. We say there's a price for everyone. That also means there's a price where you have to let someone go. And $12.58, which is what his fair value is, which is a calculation based on his outright odds, his top 5 odds, his top 10 odds, et cetera, and what that would end up paying out. As Joe mentioned, is going to ask him to finish 7th or better. I mean, I'm not even trying to ask John Rahm to finish 7th or better. And you know what I mean? Like, golf is weird, right? Golf is hard. So what is a more realistic price? And just for some baselines, 10th place is $11. $9 would be 14th or better. Like where would you be willing to go to on Wyndham Clark?
I don't want to go past $10. Not in this field. There's so much like, look, I think the separation in talent from Wyndham Clark to like Adam Long is the same as John Rahm to like a Harris English. Like, absolutely not. Like, I think these players are a lot closely packed together. I think this course is very much sort of can be wave dependent and such an based on the wind and based on the conditions. Like you mentioned, how long it could play. We've just seen a nature of weird things happening here with all these guys finishing at the bottom, which I feel like you're able to get much more shares of. So I'm not really high on Wyndham. I wouldn't go above $10.
Next up is Akshay Bhatia. $4.45 is his fair value for tonight. It's asking him to finish about 35th or better or so. He got in this field late. I think it was a Monday sponsors invite gets him into this event. Always one of the more popular golfers when he does tee it up, especially in a field like this. So, Joe, what do you think? Bullish or bearish on Akshay?
Fair value price, bullish. But you nailed it when you said his popularity, I think, is also going to lead to increased amount of people putting in bids for getting shares of Akshay tonight, which gets him out of that price point range where his fair value is. He appears to be, when kind of looking at some of the projected ownership in DFS, very highly owned. His popularity is there. He's still like is much as we see of him, not great finishes this year. You know, even at the Honda, 49th, Valspar 73. These are places we expected him to kind of come in and play well. So if you're telling me he's got to finish 35th or better, much beyond that, I think is a bit of a reach just based on popularity.
We only see him when he plays well, which is why it feels like he's always playing well. But you're right. I mean, he's missed 3 of his last 5 cuts. I will say, whether it's a thing or not, he seems to really like these like coastal resort style, runner up in Puerto Rico. He won in the Bahamas last year. Then in the 2 Bahama starts to start this year, it was 4th and 7th. He played in Bermuda. That was T17. Like, if it's a thing, I am like cautiously bullish.
I agree with you. He does seem to have that, and none of that data there were any markets for in terms of jock markets. So we're not pulling any of those what would be ridiculous ROIs for Bhatia. I just think Corrales is different than those other spots. They're all relatively short. They're very reachable. Like this with driving, it was such a dependence upon long approach shots and driving distance. I don't like him quite as much. So I think the difference in the nature of what skill sets are suited here allows me to sort of overlook some of his success here in the coastal Caribbean.
Fair enough. Next guy up is another guy who's catching some steam as of late. It's Ryan Gerard. He's the 16th pre-ranked golfer. He has $6.72 in terms of fair value. That would ask him to finish about top 25. He made his jock market debut at the Valspar Championship. T71 lost you 61% ROI. So are you willing to go back to Ryan Gerard?
Yes, I like Ryan Gerard this week. Great at the Honda. I got to see him up close. I actually was following and talking with our guy, Will Haskett, who was following the Gerard group, and he had interviewed Ryan before and got kind of some good stuff on his story. And Will was so impressed by the confidence of Gerard. Like nothing was overwhelming to him being thrust into that environment. Just good finishes. I mean, even you see the 3rd and the 4th and then the 11th in Puerto Rico, which we're going to give Akshay a lot of credit for Puerto Rico. We've got to lump it on Gerard as well. And a lot to play for this week. I'm going to be bullish, and I think a guy in good form.
I think I generally agree with you, but let me, for devil's advocate for the show, take the other side of things here, because I am very interested to learn what Ryan Gerard becomes. I'm not sure we know yet, right? So we have very little data on him. So what we've got are 3 missed cuts on the Corn Ferry Tour, then a hot stretch, and then kind of coming back to earth at the Valspar. I think what we get from him this week will be pretty telling. Is he a streaky golfer who got hot? Is he one that is now regressing to the mean? Or can he shake off an event where he lost 5.5 strokes putting, he lost off the tee, and get back to playing well? I'll be very, very impressed if he does the latter. So I'll take a bullish side of things, or excuse me, a bearish side of things, but I am like intently interested in learning more about him this week.
I love it, man. The data analyst himself, the OG data analyst of golf, of course, wants more data on Ryan Gerard before he can make his decision on him.
Of course I do. Last guy here. And this one is very fascinating because if you were playing any better, I think Taylor Pendrith would have been the favorite and everybody would have bet all their money on him. But he hasn't played well coming in. The struggles off the tee are a little bit concerning. Are you bullish or bearish on Taylor Pendrith?
This is a very interesting one to me, Rick, and I'm glad that you brought him up. So I think what you said to start off was correct. When we did our season-long fantasy draft, there's no doubt that Taylor Pendrith was the first guy taken on this list right here. We had very high expectations for him. So Taylor Pendrith bombs it. I've followed Taylor since his days at Kent State. I know how far he hits it, but a weird thing that I've noticed with him, he's kind of better on short courses. The Rocket Mortgage isn't long. Honda, he played pretty well, is not long. RSM Classic, T15, 7th at Pebble. Like, these are not, you would expect him 7,600 yards to eat a place like that up. But you look at his top 15 finishes, and they're like sub 7,200 yard courses, which I find interesting, which is a little bit of pause for concern. I like Taylor. I don't think he gets to the fair value of 1056 tonight. But I'm going to say bearish based on that price point.
I'm in the spin cycle with this guy. I don't know, right? I agree with you. The results are actually better on shorter courses, but I know his strengths. I know what Punta Cana asks for. And I'm like, oh my God, if I could draw this up for anybody, it would be Taylor Pendrith, right? I just, it is absolutely crazy. He's playing pretty horribly. I wish he was playing a lot better than this. So I've kind of gone back and forth and turned around every opportunity that I can. I will likely end on bullish. I'm a believer.
All right, let's go.
I'm a long-term believer of this guy. He was phenomenal last year. He's got a very elite skill set. We got to see it. I'm bullish on Taylor Pendrith.
Before the injury, like, we were so high on Taylor Pendrith. He got injured. He was actually able to bounce back. So it's nice to see he has a couple top 15 finishes. Great opportunity for him this week, being one of the favorites in an event with high expectations. I'm anxious to see how he performs.
Yeah, let me just actually, while I'm thinking about that, let me just pull up the odds board so we can kind of set the stage for what this field looks like. So Wyndham Clark is a pretty heavy favorite. He's 9-1. There's a gap to Thomas Dietrich, about 16-1. Another small gap to Patrick Rogers and Taylor Pendrith at 20 and 22. Then it kind of gets lumped in with a bunch of guys like Joel Damon, Emiliano Grillo, Ben Martin, Nikolai Højgaard. So that's kind of the top of the board. Akshay, when's the last time a guy got in on a Monday sponsor invite and he's got like the 10th best odds?
That's Akshay, baby. He's so popular. They know people were anxious to sort of bet him. I'm sure they were.
And to kind of close the loop on some of the other guys that we talked about, or the other guy that we talked about, Ryan Gerard, who we talked about, is 50-1. So that kind of puts everything into perspective for us. Okay, we're playing stock market DFS. The market is heating up. I'm going to show you the big board in just a second. If you want to get involved in either this or the prop side of things on Jock Market, we have a code. It's POWER. There's a link in the description. Get your $100 deposit bonus and start making some more money. Here's the big board, Joe. And no surprise that out of the gate, Wyndham Clark is already the most expensive golfer. He has already posted his all-time high, as you can imagine. He has been a winner in 4 out of his last 5. He's the #1 pre-ranked golfer, critical in the Jock Market because that's how we break ties. 949 already asking him to finish 13th or better. I think you said $10. That's where you'd go. I think you will have no shares of Wyndham Clark tonight.
I think so too. But it also could be one of these situations where guys just kind of sit there and stall. He's playing is this, like, from a strokes gain standpoint, is this the best he's ever played in his career, the run that he's on right now?
Yeah. The other thing is he's like absolutely knocking the cover off the ball. He has, so these,
Yeah, look at that.
his best 5 approach weeks ever are in the last 6 weeks.
Wow.
So like, which you could argue now, like you could argue, like, are we buying high?
Yeah.
Like if you have if the best 5, whatever you've ever done in your entire, the best 5, like tucking your children into bed, the
Yeah.
best 5 nights you've ever had are this week. You
Are
are
we in,
having a ceiling week, brother.
you are having a ceiling run. I don't know. Like, has anyone ever done that in terms of strokes gained approach numbers? Have 5 of their 6 best, unless they have 6 starts, of course. But
Yeah.
the amount of data on Wyndham Clark, that's insane. How well he's hitting it right now. The ball striking numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. He's not putting it too poorly. Like everything looks so dialed in right now. Maybe I need to reconsider that $10 barrier.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Now, this is an interesting one too, because Dietrich was like a little more popular early in the year when he was coming over from Europe, and it's not like he played horribly. He missed the cut on the number at the Players. He withdrew from the Honda after round 1. He cited an illness, but finished T24 at the Arnold Palmer. This is, I think, one of those weird situations that we get into where this industry now moves so quickly, Joe, that Thomas Dietrich was popular. He didn't play poorly, but he didn't win anybody anything, right? He didn't have any like top 10 runs. He didn't win any golf tournaments. He constantly was better than the field, but everyone just like, he just like fades into the black. You know what I mean? We just stop talking about him. And I feel like that's what kind of happened here with Thomas Dietrich.
There were positives, and then there was always seemed to be a step back. He was super popular coming into Honda. I remember the withdrawal there threw some people for a loop. But then he bounced back the next week with like a top 25 at API, missed the cut at the Players, which we know from year after year data, we can't really penalize someone too much for that. But before that was on such a solid run, and really a guy that you mentioned, I would expect him to see him sort of gaining more strokes off the tee. The ball striking numbers in 3 straight are a little bit down compared to the field. So that's a little bit concerning when I think of the player profile that he fits. You would like to see him picking up 1 or 2 off the tee.
Patrick Rodgers, Joel Damon, Taylor Pendrith are the 3 golfers currently in the $7 per share range. They're all 7th or better in the pre-rank. Just a couple of nuggets. We already talked plenty about Taylor Pendrith. I guess I'll take your temperature a little bit on these other 2. You know, Joel Damon's been a loser in 6 straight cash markets. Not sure how much that worries you. And then the ever existing will he or won't he with Patrick Rodgers is here.
Won't he? I have no reason to believe he's going to play well, because he's had 3 starts where I expected him to actually play well. Going to Genesis, where he's done it before, API, Players, all missed cuts. 36 at the Valspar is nothing to write home about. Even with gaining almost 5 around the green, that's insane that he was able to only finish T36. He's just not hitting it well with his irons right now. As you can see from those numbers, 6 out of the last 7 starts, he's losing strokes gained on approach. That's not great when you're going to have a lot of long iron shots. That's not great when you're going to be dealing with coastal winds. I know that this is sort of his jam, these courses here in the Caribbean, but I'm so out on Patrick Rodgers. Joel, I don't know about. Like, is Joel getting a bump? Is Joel getting the Netflix bump like he is everywhere else, where like people just know his name and he's popular now and they want shares of him?
Yes, probably.
Like him and Gino are celebs now.
Yeah, the game's not been good, man. And I know didn't he have a baby recently? I don't know if it's still, right. So I don't know. He did not get the baby swag bump. He did not get like, this is a pretty tough stat profile.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive events losing at least 24% ROI in Jock market. That's not good.
That's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. Emiliano Grillo making a little bit of move. Then we got a couple of these guys in the $6 range. Akshay already up to 605. Tyler Duncan's been playing a lot better than I think. Okay, he had these three decent ones in a row. T33 at Riv, the 3rd place finish at Honda, and then a small loss at the Players Championship before missing the cut at the Valspar. So is it like, are there specific types of golfers? I mean, we've kind of batted back and forth the long guys, but also maybe not. Like what are we looking for here? Who are we looking for?
Yeah, you want a little bit like you have the stuff there that
Yeah.
it's in the numbers that you got to be able to sort of bang it off the tee here. It shows the correlation every single year, so I do want guys who can hit it plenty far. I kind of feel like it's going to be difficult. It's always more difficult than I expect it to be going into the week. So that leads me to guys like Nick Hardy, guys that could randomly pop up in a US Open, like might go well here if the conditions get bad and can hit it plenty far off the tee.
Yeah,
I
that's
actually like
interesting.
Hardy.
That's interesting. Yeah, Hardy can play well when conditions get tough. The one guy I did want to look up again was Dylan Wu.
Yes,
So
let's talk about him.
yeah, so I mean, obviously was playing. I mean, I guess still is playing great. T29 at Pebble Beach, T10 at Honda, T48 at Puerto Rico. I mean, he's just striping the ball. Valspar, I think maybe people were expecting a little bit more out of him. He finished T58, but made the cut. Valspar's, like it can go sideways. Dylan Woos, I think, still in the midst of playing solid golf right now.
I totally agree. And there was a while there where you could get him at very attractive price points. He was in the low $3 range there for like 5 of the last 6 events and, returned to profit in 4 out of those 6, 3 of which were over 100% ROI. So you were able to make big bucks on him. Now, depending where he's probably going to go for his highest IPO ever was $4.70. Coincidentally at Corrales last year. So we'll see if he can sort of bridge that barometer where he lost you money because he finished 56. But the guy's been playing really good golf and shouldn't go unnoticed.
So this is all coming back to me now. He was playing great at Valspar. He was inside like the top 15 going into Sunday, where he lost nearly 6 strokes to the field, which is like by far his worst rounds in a long time. So if you're willing to forgive one bad round on Sunday at Valspar, he's been playing like that. T58 is probably not really indicative of how well he played that week because things kind of got away from him late.
Yeah, here's a player I was kind of wanted to ask you about, and maybe you could bring up his stat
Sure.
profile. But I've heard a lot of people sort of ask me about Eric Van Rooyen this week. Another guy that's just kind of has the catchy name. We seem to see him a lot on TV, but some decent performances as of late. 2 top 25s. Going back to Sony and the CJ Cup, it looks like.
Yeah, I think he's definitely trending right. I mean, it
Okay.
was really bad. After the RBC Heritage, he missed 5 or 6 cuts in a row. He was not competitive. He was hemorrhaging strokes in the ball striking categories. He was losing in the short. I mean, it was horrible. It was wretched. But you can see, he comes back from Europe. So he probably, you could probably argue, and I'm going to build a narrative that I have no idea if it's true or not. But he goes, he spends December, goes to South Africa, probably works with his coach, probably, gets a little bit of time to get family and get in and reset, starts coming back, starts playing well again. T6 at the American Express. The metrics are back in line. He's hitting it well. Then he pops off at Valspar with 7 strokes on approach. I mean, this is like you could make a case that like it makes sense that he's trending in the right direction.
Okay. I'm glad some of the numbers back it up. I didn't realize he was that solid on approach last week.
Yeah, special stuff. I'm going to refresh the big board. We've got about 15 minutes or so until this IPO closes, right before 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to get involved, the code's POWER. There's a link in the description, not only the stock market side of things, but also the prop pick'em side of things. Let me just do a quick rundown of the top golfers here, Joe. We've got a couple of guys in the top 10 of the pre-ranks who are still below $6, both Mark Hubbard and Charlie Hoffman. You look further down into top 20 golfers like Greg Chalmers is back in this field, $3.05. So like we've got some pretty deep names, again, like guys like Doug Gim would have been, wow, let's pull up this stat profile because Gim, like, if I didn't watch him for the last year, he would be a favorite. Like, look at this. I mean, miscut, withdrawal, miscut, T62, miscut. But this little nugget, this little 5 strokes from tee to green at Valspar, does that give you any semblance of hope for like what is good enough?
I think it should, but it's probably not enough because I see that a lot of it came around the green there at Valspar, which I think is the one when you see it pop, it's kind of like putting. Like you don't really know unless you're looking at each individual shot where it all came from. Did he chip in out of a bunker? Who knows? But yeah, it's other than that, it's sort of been a bloodbath, and he's probably like there are so many guys like this, Rick, where this is actually an extremely important week for guys looking to maintain their tour card, as that field in terms of the guys who have a card shrinks down at the end of this season. The FedEx Cup shrinks down. Everything has gotten kind of tighter. So this is a very important week for a lot of these guys. And there's some interesting ones. Even on I'm looking now on like the second page of this thing in Jock Market.
Okay, I'll jump to the second page, but this is actually a good one here about Nikolai Højgaard. So let's get initiated here with one of the Højgaard brothers, and this is the first PGA Tour event he's played since the Open Championship. He played the Scottish Open. He has not played a true, just like straight up, not a co-sanctioned PGA Tour event since this event last year. He missed the cut, but I'll tell you what, it's pretty good numbers, right? So he finished T10 in Abu Dhabi, had a T13 at the Ras Al Khaimah Championship, T5 in Thailand with good ball striking numbers. I mean, we know that these two kids are intensely talented. It's always this big question, Joe, of a guy who plays primarily on the European Tour coming over and playing a PGA Tour event.
Yeah, and we always have very high expectations for someone like him, especially coming off a T5 and a T13 in some of his last events. But yeah, we'll kind of see. Is Rasmus in the field too, or
no? I don't think so.
Okay,
just Nikolai.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't think so. No, he's not.
Okay.
Let's go to that page 2, because you were kind of mentioning, am I on page 2 or am I on page 3? Hard to tell with some of these names. Carson Young played well in where was it? Puerto Rico? I don't think it was not a Jock Market event, so it's not going to show up here, but Carson Young was in the mix in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Who is there anybody else you said you might have saw a name or two?
Carson Young, I think, was first round leader at the Honda as well and at Puerto Rico. I wanted to ask you about Kyle Westmoreland. He's just a bomber, isn't he?
Yeah. If you're going for like pure distance, this guy, first of all, like if you knew nothing about him and you just saw this headshot, you'd be like, that dude freaking mashes it. Right?
Where did he freaking come from? Is he from the long drive tour? He looks like one of those guys.
His traps do not even fit on the screen.
Your boy is huge.
Yeah, he is. I mean, unfortunately, it's the skill set doesn't always translate to great results, right? I mean, he has not necessarily always been a strong approach player. He has his last top 25 was a Corn Ferry event, which was a T9 in the fall. So it's a little tough to get super excited. But if you're looking for that bomb it without regard for wherever it ends up, like maybe he's your guy. But yeah, it's a little bit tight on what those results have been.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one was Brandon Matthews. I kind of saw there.
Same
He's just
thing.
another guy who absolutely crushed it. Where did he win? He kind of played the Latino America tour, I know, for a while. And he does have that one professional win. Let me see if I could pull it up here.
He won a Corn Ferry event last year.
Right.
A Stara Golf Championship he won.
Okay.
He was vibing. He went into that event. So he got T33, T22, runner-up win. That is foreshadowing a victory right there.
You're right. Wow. Yeah. So he was in much better form then. Yeah.
He is. I mean, even before that, right? I mean, he missed 4 cuts, then got into form and won like basically immediately. But we're not necessarily seeing the breadcrumbs as much as we would like at the moment here.
Absolutely.
Let me refresh the big board here, because I imagine we've got some movement since the last time I've done so. We got about 10 minutes or so until this thing closes, and we do have Wyndham Clark over $10 per share. So now up to 10.06. So what that means for Wyndham Clark is right now, if he stopped at $10.06, would need to finish 12th or better to return you a profit. So we could go the other way here, Joe, the ever dangerous, ever exciting short. So just for purposes of examples here, because we got kind of round numbers, if you do not think Wyndham Clark is going to finish inside the top 12 and you would like to put your money where your mouth is, you could short him. And if he were to finish, for example, 18th, which is worth $8 a share, 10 minus 8, you would make $2 a share. congratulations, you'd be a winner on that. And then if Wyndham Clark ended up being the winner and got the full $25 per share payout, you'd have to cover the difference, $15 per share. So that is an opportunity for this week. We talked about volatility in one direction. You could get volatility in the other direction as well.
Yeah, and we're going to see it without a doubt. We saw last week the leaderboard. There was one guy in the top 10 that actually returned you an ROI. So, Wyndham Clark, you mentioned, is playing so well right now. But you can definitely see some value if you want to put enough into the short, like you mentioned there, and you did a great job of explaining it. You do have to put more money down up front. So if you were to want to short Wyndham right now, you would need $15 per share because you're on the other side of that 25. So you have to put a little bit more into it. But you see, last year there's a lot of red sort of at the top of that board in terms of the high IPO guys.
Yeah, so I've got last year now sorted by highest IPOs, and outside of Johnny Vegas, who did turn you a profit, the next 6 most expensive golfers were all losers. The 10 of the 12 most expensive golfers were losers, and then basically 15 of the 19 most expensive golfers were losers. So there are opportunity. Obviously, when I showed the profit, those guys were all cheap. You knew the expensive guys were going to have had a rough road, and they did. So a couple of different options here. This game is all about expectations, Joe. Are they going to exceed their expectations? Are they going to not surpass their expectations?
Yeah, break-even point for every single player. You'll see in the app when you use that slider over what it is. So this is a perfect event for it. I think it's a good one to short. I may look to do some of that over the next 7 minutes or so here, especially with the top guys. Like I noticed last year, there was a great group of players, but nobody really cleared that $9 mark, which makes, where Wyndham Clark's sitting right now kind of attractive if you want to go that way. And there's a couple of other guys clear of 8 as well.
Yeah, so the current update here, and I might be a minute or two behind, but Joel Damon now $8 even. So that would ask him to finish 18th or better. Taylor Pendrith is closing in on $8 a share. Dietrich and Patrick Rodgers are already there. So we are getting some upward momentum towards the top of the board. I'll refresh this. I'll take you the rest of the way. We're going to let Joe go do his thing. Okay. So Joe, you're going to go bid. We're going to see what your portfolio looks like, but you mentioned it, maybe a little bit of shorting. Are you going to stick with the penny stock? Like what's the strategy here?
Yeah, I think that's the go-to this week from what we've seen in the past couple of years in these sort of alternate field events. When we have them, and we always do shows for them, we've seen kind of that be the bread and butter spots. So I'm going to try to pick maybe one or two guys up top that I like to have the reverse side of their action on, and then probably look in terms of my buying of shares down lower at the bottom.
Okay, beautiful. Joe, get out of here. We will catch up with you in a couple of minutes. So I'll take you the rest of the way here. My clock says 8:54 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got a couple of minutes until this IPO closes. Even when this IPO closes, you can still get in on everything, right? You can still buy and sell and short. This is just kind of your opportunity to set that initial price. Power is the link you're looking for. The code you're looking for. There's a link in the description. So here we go. Wyndham Clark still standing tall. I mentioned it already at an all-time high. His previous all-time high was last week, $7 at the Valspar. Now he's $10.25. So $10.25 is going to ask him to finish about 11th or better. 11th would be $10.50. So obviously, Wyndham Clark is catching a lot of steam right now, and maybe he should. A winner in 4 out of his last 5. We already talked about the ball striking numbers and everything else that comes along with it. Thomas Dietrich, $8.66. I'm going to imagine, let me just confirm. Yeah, another all-time high. We might have a lot of ATHs tonight. Thomas Dietrich gets one here, $8.66. He is the 4th pre-ranked golfer. So there's only 3 other golfers in this field who break a tie ahead of Thomas Dietrich. So as long as he's not tied with one of those guys, he's going to get the full share if he does end up tying. Patrick Rodgers. We were pretty torn on Patrick Rodgers. In fact, I think we were pretty bearish on Patrick Rodgers. He's been a loser in 3 of his last 4. He's been a loser in 5 of his last 7. He is currently going for $8.36 a share, with Joel Damon as the other golfer over $8. Next tier, the 7s. That's Pendrith at $7.89, Emiliano Grillo at $7.35, and Matt Wallace at $7 a share. Didn't really talk about Matt Wallace, but a T7 at Valspar got him a nearly 300% ROI. He has been a winner in 2 of his last 3, Valspar and Honda, which both certainly skew on the more difficult side of things. But outside of that, it has been rough sledding. Maybe Matt Wallace coming out of this little mini slump that he has been in. The $6 range is where things really get spicy here. It's like everybody else. Ben Martin. We talked about Nikolai Højgaard. We did not mention Kramer Hickok, who does appear to be playing better golf. He's been a winner in 3 of his last 4 cash markets. And we talked about EVR and Nick Hardy. Sam Stevens is here rocking the 17th pre-rank. Had a really good stretch from Farmers and Pebble Beach. Couple of good returns there. Hasn't been as good when he turns his attention to Florida, but maybe he can get an opportunity here in Punta Cana to turn that stuff around. Akshay. He's already smashed through his pre-rank for his fair value for tonight. $4.39 was the fair value. He's already at 607. So we are asking Akshay to finish about 28th or better. That's what we're asking for Akshay right now. If he doesn't move any further, his jock market history is a little bit all over the place. But if you start including, the Corn Ferry Tour events, that's not going to be included in this. So you got to kind of take what you can get here. Dylan Wu now up to 592. I like this guy. I like him a lot. Seems to be turning into a very solid professional. He's got 3 wins in his last 4 starts. Wins as in positive ROIs, not actually 3 trophies on the mantle. Let's refresh this. 857. We got a pretty early close last week. So we've got about 2 or 3 minutes to go in this IPO. Wyndham Clark extending $10.73. His fair value is $12.65. Will he get there? We'll find out. A little bit of movement further down the board. Here comes Ryan Gerard, $5.78 a share. He's your 16th pre-ranked golfer. He's still $1 below his fair value. Doug Gim about 75 cents below his fair value. We already talked about him. Scott Piercy's got 50 cents to his fair value. Cam Percy's already crushed his by $1. How about that? Because people saw Cam Percy finish T12 at Honda, 272% ROI. T16 at Valspar, 315% ROI. 2 big triple-digit ROIs for Cam Percy in his last 2 starts, not going unnoticed here. Augusto Nunez, I like this kid. $5.29, really struggled at Valspar. I've seen him hit it. He can move the ball. Very talented. Just got to kind of click and get him at the right spot. $5.29 right now. A great pre-rank, 27th for him. Lots of guys over their fair value here. Vincent Norman, 505 to a 384 fair value. You love to see that. He talking about guys who can absolutely move it. Here's Carson Young. Not going to show up in that Puerto Rico Open. Is not going to show up in his jock market results. Played great there. Probably should have won it. Could have won it, except for who was it? Nico Echeverria running away with it. I've got 859. We might close any second.
We are closed.
Oh, shoot.
We closed. Yep. We're shut it down, folks. We are done.
Wow. All right. IPO is closed. IPO is closed. That was, again, it felt early. I was not ready for that.
Yeah. It was a quick one. I don't know. I'm trying to just wait till these come over to see if any of I had some short action on the top there.
I've got the final numbers. Let me know when your portfolio.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay,
yep, ready.
So Joe is going to reveal his portfolio to us. Joe, we are ready.
Yep. Here are the guys that I have shares of. So it's Ryan Gerard, Bryce Garnett, Tyson Alexander, Carson Young, and Ryan Brem. The short that I got in was Patrick Rogers. I also attempted to short Taylor Pendrith and Joel Damon, but it looks like they didn't quite reach that target price that I'd set.
Joe's portfolio: Ryan Gerard, Bryce Garnett, Tyson Alexander, Carson Young. I think I'm going to like that. I haven't seen the final number on that, but I think I'm going to like that. Ryan Brem and a short on Patrick Rogers. So what was the number what's the short number on Rogers? 836. So that means that is basically 16th-ish or better. So if Patrick Rogers finishes 17th or worse, Joe wins.
Yes.
If Patrick Rodgers finishes 16th or better, Joe loses.
The shorts are a fun sweat, man. Everyone, I haven't had a lot of, I'm not going to lie, I'm not very good at them so far. So I'm going to test the waters this week in an extremely volatile event.
Snoopaloop got, I'm assuming that's Ben Martin, Sung Yul No, Rafael Campos. Brett got Russell Knox, Ricky Johnson, Richard Johnson, Greg Chalmers, all way below their value. JG Funk got Kramer Hickok, Mark Hubbard, Justin Lauer, Harry Higgs, and Richie Wierenski. Brent Harris got Hubbard, Long, Gerard, Dylan Wu, Sean O'Hare, Kevin Chappell, Terrio, Trainer, I don't even know who that is. Trainer, Harrington, Wes Bryan, the real Scott Stallings. Boom.
Scott Stallings Jr. Yep.
Love it. All right. Here is the reveal of the board. Wyndham. It's Wyndham's world. We're just living in it. He smoked everybody. $11.25. That asks him to finish 9th or better. He is nearly $3 more expensive than anybody else in the field. Never a doubt with Wyndham.
Never a doubt, huh? I'm interested to see. I'm trying to pull up now what his price to top 10 is.
He's a dog. I just looked it up.
Is he a dog?
Okay. Yeah. So he is plus 120 to finish inside the top 10.
In this, you're going to need 9th or better. It's a big ask, man. 1125. That was like peak John Rahm numbers we were getting on Rahm when he was coming into events like 6-1.
Yeah, it's a big number. Big gap. So Thomas Dietrich, 880, leads the rest of the guys. And that is so that's like 15th or 16th or better.
Yeah. Dietrich, that's also a big ask, but I think he's the most consistent of the next guys, which is why I didn't try to short him. I basically went with the next 3 guys down, who I think are a bit more up and down. Dietrich has at least shown the ability to like make a lot of cuts and finish like around 25th or 30th versus those other guys. Definitely sprinkle some missed cuts in there.
Grillo didn't even sniff his fair value, although I guess the top guys didn't get there. None of the top guys got there. The middle kind of smashed it, but the top guys were a little bit off.
Yep.
Akshay at 614. So that is asking Akshay to finish about 25th or better. His top 20 number, it's close. It's close.
Okay.
Might be a little, I might want the other side of it a little bit more, but it's close. Dylan Wu, 592. What's that going to end up being? That's like, okay, so that's like top 30. Okay, that's interesting. I do like that. Here's Gerard, who you got that's a great pre-rank too. 16th pre-rank, 578. That's a good number on Gerard.
Okay, cool. What's that break even about on there in the chart?
578 is about 29th.
Okay. I'm trying to look now where so he's plus 170 in some spots to top 20. So that's about right. 29.
Trying to see if there's anybody else that we talked about or anyone that has like a pre-rank that's way off. Just trying to see here. We'll go to the second page. Matthews to 342. Here it is. Santiago Tario. That's who it is.
I have no idea who that is. But Hogard was probably the biggest jumper, like 77 in the pre-rank, and he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th on the board in terms of IPO price with a 77 pre-rank, as we know, can factor in if you have a multiple guys tied at the same finishing position.
Correct. So he's right on that top 20. So like his top 20 number, plus 150 or so. Okay. So there's a lot out. Whoops, sorry, Joe. I cut you right out of it. There's a lot out there. And we've only just begun because now live is happening and this starts pretty early. They've got a field they got to get out there. But yeah, this is going to be, I think, pretty chaotic. And I wonder how much people will be paying attention to match play and giving opportunities to those who are following along Punta Cana with a little bit of extra juice.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't have quite the coverage that we're going to get at match play as well. So I think, as always, those who are paying close attention to it and willing to, have the app open and look for ads, and people who may be asleep at the wheel will always have an advantage particularly in events like this. You're right, with so many of the big names competing in match play over the next 4 days.
Okay. We will be back next week. And I'll remind you
Yep.
just one last time, if you want to get involved, link in the description, support Jock Market. They support us. They've supported us for a long time. They're great for the industry. They've got a lot of new innovations. They're awesome. Support them. Get your $100 deposit bonus. Use the code POWER. Follow Joe on Twitter. At TourPicks is where you can find him. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Corrales Punta Cana Championship. Best of luck.